Released a brand new commercial featuring Caitlin Clark and her new Kobe shoe that she released today. And I saw this commercial yesterday on social media. I thought it was so cool. There's a shot when she's in the locker room and she opens her eye and it like turns into what looks like a snake eye, but when you zoom in, it's actually the Kobe logo in her eye. And as you know, Kobe's nickname was the Black Mamba. I just felt like across the board, this commercial was a 10 for 10. And a lot of people have been getting on Nike because they don't feel like they have been promoting Caitlin as much as they.
Once the commercial went live, there was no containing it. Social media didn't just respond, it erupted. Timelines flooded. Group chats lit up. Clips replayed endlessly. Every corner of sneaker culture felt the impact at once. Resale platforms struggled to keep up as listings multiplied and prices jumped in real time. Corporate spreadsheets built to predict orderly behavior suddenly became irrelevant. This wasn't organic, buzz slowly building. It was an avalanche, the kind that overwhelmed systems designed for stability, not shock. Websites buckled under traffic. Search trends exploded. Algorithms did what they always do in moments like this. They amplified what people couldn't stop talking about. And that amplification fed itself. The more people talked, the more visible it became. The more visible it became, the more others felt compelled to join in. This wasn't marketing anymore. It was momentum. For sneaker culture, moments like this are rare. Most drops succeed or fail within predictable margins. This one broke those margins entirely. It wasn't just about selling a product, it was about redefining who held attention and why.
Caitlin Clark is going viral again for the new Nike commercial. The shoes are finally coming out. Finally, I'm trying to figure out what took so long. I really don't know what took so long for y'all to start this rollout. But hey, it's finally here. Let's get into what Nike posted for Caitlin Clark. Here it says, Caitlin Clark's anticipated Nike signature shoe is expected to launch in spring 2020.
Somewhere inside Nike's internal dashboards, the data started telling a story that couldn't be ignored. What likely began as routine performance tracking turned into a moment of realization. Playing it safe no longer made sense. The response to Caitlin Clark wasn't just strong, it was overwhelming. At that point, the decision became clear. Controlled chaos was better than predictability. That single commercial didn't just perform well. It detonated. It sent shockwaves through metrics that usually move incrementally. Conversion rates spiked. Engagement curves went vertical. Demographics Nike had struggled to reach suddenly showed up in force. It was as if someone inside the company pressed the most aggressive option available and decided to see what happened next. This wasn't accidental virality. It was Nike recognizing a moment and choosing not to slow it down. Instead of throttling exposure or carefully pacing the narrative, they let it run wild. In marketing terms, that's a dangerous move. In reality, it's also how category-defining moments are born. The sneaker industry thrives on anticipation and scarcity, but it rarely sees disruption this sudden. Established hierarchies don't usually collapse because of one campaign. Yet here it was proof that the right athlete at the right moment can override years of brand planning in a single stroke. Nike didn't just react, they leaned in. And by doing so, they effectively reset the board. What had been a structured multi-year strategy suddenly felt secondary to the raw pull of audience behavior. The data didn't lie. Fans weren't being guided. They were choosing. This is where brands either hesitate or commit. Nike committed. And in that commitment, they acknowledge a truth most companies resist admitting. Sometimes the audience decides faster than the strategy ever could.
People are looking for virality. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think we're looking at Caitlin Clark's ad being one of the more viral things we've seen in a long time. Like if you look at the Instagram post on Nike, as far as I'm aware,
what was supposed to be a routine product release turned into something far bigger, almost overnight. This Nike drop wasn't announced as a cultural reset. There were no warning signs, no months-long hype campaign hinting that the ground was about to shift. It was framed as just another commercial moment in an already crowded sports marketing calendar. But within hours, it became obvious that this wasn't normal. The numbers weren't just impressive, they were absurd. Engagement spiked to levels that made internal projections look like bad guesses. Traffic surged past expectations. Conversations exploded across platforms. And suddenly, a single commercial felt like it had rewritten the rules. Fans reacted first, then resellers, then analysts, finally executives. Everyone scrambled to understand what had just happened because this wasn't the result of a slow, carefully constructed brand rollout. It was instant. One person, one appearance, and the entire ecosystem reacted like it had been waiting for permission to lose its mind. That kind of response doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't happen often. While the internet celebrated and Nike quietly counted the wins, there was another reality unfolding at the same time. A'ja Wilson, the player Nike had spent years positioning as the face of its women's basketball future, was watching her moment begin to slip, not because she failed, not because her product flopped, but because attention is a finite resource. And in sports marketing, attention moves fast and without mercy. The most unsettling part was how sudden it all felt. There was no gradual transition, no shared spotlight. One moment, Wilson was the undisputed centerpiece of Nike's WNBA strategy. The next, the conversation had shifted entirely. This wasn't about disrespect or rivalry. It was about momentum. And momentum doesn't ask for fairness. It just goes where the energy is strongest. That's what blindsided everyone. Not that Caitlin Clark succeeded, but how quickly and completely she did. It felt like something fundamental had changed overnight, as if the market collectively decided the future had arrived earlier than expected. And once that realization set in, there was no going back.
WNBA, and Caitlin Clark has she transcended even that. She's in a whole different stratosphere. This is Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Elizabeth Clark. Call her, yeah, CEC, Caitlin Elizabeth Clark, man. This is who she is, bro.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can. And then you got the New Heights podcast, bro. Like, Caitlin just putting more money in a pockets. Like, just shout out to Caitlin. Like I said, man, the way you play basketball is kind of how I look at you in.
The irony is that Nike had done everything right with A'ja Wilson. The A1 launch was textbook perfection. The pink colorway sold out instantly. Resale prices doubled. Media coverage was glowing. Wilson was given creative control rarely afforded to athletes. For 2 full years, she shaped her brand with intention and clarity. And it worked until it didn't grow anymore. That's the quiet danger in sneaker culture. Plateau isn't failure, but it feels worse. The A1 didn't collapse. It just stopped accelerating. Buzz cooled. Energy drifted. Attention wandered, not because Wilson lost relevance, but because something newer, louder, and more magnetic pulled it away. Nike didn't abandon Wilson, but the center of gravity shifted. And once that happens, no amount of careful planning can force momentum back where it was. The market had already chosen its next obsession. That's the brutal truth of modern sports marketing. Success doesn't protect you from being overshadowed. It only buys time.
Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it from there. No chance.
Caitlin,
So right here, you see kids.
Yeah, she can't make it from there.
Look,
hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
you got a bunch of kids asking Caitlin Clark, how about from here? Basically, I guess insinuating this is the younger generation, how she even influences boys, not just girls. Do you know how crazy it is that a woman basketball player is impacting boys basketball?
What was supposed to be a routine Nike release turned into something far more disruptive than anyone anticipated. There was no warning, no long runway of hype, no suggestion that the ground beneath women's basketball marketing was about to shift. One commercial went live, and suddenly the numbers stopped making sense. Not good numbers, not strong engagement, impossible numbers. Traffic spiked beyond projections. Conversations flooded every platform at once, and internal metrics that usually move in controlled increments went vertical. This wasn't a campaign slowly gaining traction. It was an explosion. Nike didn't manufacture this moment, they recognized it. Somewhere between dashboards lighting up and resale platforms glitching under pressure, the company made a choice. Playing it safe no longer mattered. Controlling the narrative wasn't the priority. Momentum was, and momentum was already choosing Caitlin Clark. Instead of throttling exposure or easing the rollout, Nike leaned into the chaos. That decision effectively reset the entire sneaker conversation overnight. The internet reacted first. Social feeds flooded instantly. Group chats went into meltdown mode. Clips replayed endlessly. Sneaker websites buckled under traffic surges they weren't built to handle. Warehouses emptied faster than projected. Resale prices jumped in real time. This wasn't organic, it was gradually building, it was an avalanche. Algorithms amplified it because people couldn't stop watching, sharing, and talking. The more attention it received, the more unavoidable it became. What made the moment so unsettling wasn't just how successful it was, but how little structure it seemed to need. Caitlin Clark didn't have a signature shoe. She didn't have years of brand mythology behind her. She didn't wait her turn. Her presence alone bent the market. Nike, perhaps more honestly than ever before, acknowledged a truth brands rarely like admitting. Sometimes the audience decides faster than the strategy ever could. While the public celebrated, another reality unfolded quietly in the background. A'ja Wilson, the athlete Nike had spent years positioning as the centerpiece of its women's basketball future, was watching attention drift away in real time. Not because her product failed, not because her brand collapsed, but because attention is finite and star power doesn't cue politely. Wilson's A1 launch had been flawless by every traditional metric. The first colorway sold out instantly. Resale prices doubled. Media coverage was glowing. Nike didn't half-invest. They gave her creative control, time, space, and narrative ownership rarely afforded to athletes. For 2 years, she shaped her own brand universe, influencing every detail and locking down her position as the league's commercial face. And it worked until it stopped growing. That's the danger in sneaker culture. Plateau isn't failure, but it feels worse. The A1 didn't crash. It didn't disappear. It simply stopped accelerating. Buzz cooled. Energy softened. And then suddenly, something louder arrived. In a market driven by momentum, stalling, even at the top, can feel like being overtaken while standing still. This wasn't a passing of the torch done gently or diplomatically. It was abrupt, immediate, public, the kind of shift that makes brand managers wake up at night because it exposes how fragile even the best-laid plans really are. Caitlin Clark didn't erase what came before. She simply redirected gravity. And gravity doesn't ask for permission. Nike's role in this moment is what makes it so revealing. They didn't abandon Wilson, but they followed the audience. The data made the decision unavoidable. Demographics that had been difficult to capture suddenly showed up en masse. Engagement crossed into mainstream territory. The commercial didn't just sell. It redefined who people were watching and why.